The other thing we are watching today has to do with the reaction to social media and what some people are concerned with might be fake news or misrepresentations of what is actually happening out there. You know about the boycott with Facebook. You have several companies, including our parent company, Verizon, saying they're going to withhold advertising from Facebook until it gets on top of the issues there. And then over the weekend, we heard from Starbucks, and Levi is also joining this. Facebook, now 180 companies boycotting them. And joining us to discuss this is Beth Egan, an associate professor of advertising at Syracuse University, my alma mater. I beat her to the graduation line, though. You are also an alumni. Good to have you here, Beth.
Thank you, Adam, for having me.
So from an advertising standpoint, what we keep hearing from analysts is that, look, this is $70 billion a year in revenue for Facebook, and the 180 companies that are boycotting, not yet a serious threat, but the potential is that this could go global, right?
Yes, absolutely. And a couple of the companies that have announced over the weekend have extended it to a global boycott.
So what does that mean for Facebook, for their bottom line, do you think? Or do you expect the company, and for that matter, other social media platforms to respond to this?
Well, they're absolutely going to have to respond. But I think the one thing you have to keep in mind, especially for Facebook, is the $70 billion in revenue. Only 6% of that revenue comes from their top 100 advertisers, according to Pathmatics. Really, the crux of the Facebook advertising game is that small business owner. So while these are substantial and important moves by these large companies, still not having a major effect on the Facebook ad revenue projections, or quite frankly, Mark Zuckerberg's net worth either.
That's right. And Mark Zuckerberg has said that what Facebook's going to do moving forward is put these labels on posts about voting to direct people to accurate information. And if, for example, President Trump violates their policy, they're going to put newsworthy. Is that actually going to help, or do you think this boycott's going to grow even more and actually start to affect them? Because the large companies so far contribute millions of dollars a year, but if you add on small business and mid-sized businesses, then you really hit Facebook's pocket.
Well, I think there's two things there. I think it's much harder for a small business to join in the boycott, regardless of their personal position on Facebook's reactions. And that is because the advertising on Facebook works. So for a Unilever or Coca-Cola to pull their advertising, they have a lot of other areas where they're talking to people. They have a lot of other places where they can put those millions of dollars that they're investing into Facebook. But if you're selling handbags down the street, that's going to have a real impact on your ROI. The other aspect of this that I would note is this is kind of a two-sided coin here, in that we can, as consumers, support these companies, Starbucks and the ones that originally came in, REI, North Face, who are historically socially conscious companies anyway. We as consumers can support those moves from these companies, but we're still scrolling through our Facebook feed. We're still going to post our 4th of July stories on Instagram. And we're giving these companies our attention. And that is what advertisers are buying. So as long as our attention goes there, the advertisers will still follow.
Hey, Beth, Rick Newman here. One thing I would add about small businesses, it's not just that Facebook ads work for them. For a lot of small businesses, it's a lifeline for them. I mean, I've interviewed business owners. A majority of their sales come from Facebook ads. So that's, to my mind, an important thing to think about. But here's my question. Why do you suppose Facebook is so intransigent about this? Is it just that one guy, Mark Zuckerberg, is so hard-headed? Is it that they just don't think they can do it? They think they're going to end up on the winning side in terms of public sentiment? What is it?
Well, I think on the one hand, Zuckerberg continues this, rightfully so, continues the mantra of his mission is connecting people. And the core of our democracy is to connect people. So on the plus side, I will say he's staying core to his mission. But I think on the more cynical side, I will say Donald Trump accounted for over half of all of the political spending on Facebook in 2016. So we talk a lot about campaign finance reform. Well, this is kind of a similar situation. Does he feel somewhat beholden to Trump from a revenue standpoint when Trump really kind of doubled down on his platform in 2016.
So does that suggest that once Donald Trump is not president, whether it's in 6 months or 4 years and 6 months, this becomes an easier decision for Facebook?
I don't think it's ever an easy decision for Facebook. And I think it makes it very difficult for all of us to be having this conversation because either side of the political spectrum that you're on, I mean, right now it's easy for conservatives to get very upset at this push to label Donald Trump's ads and messages and pull certain hate speech, which I think most people can agree with. But it becomes tricky when it's the other side and who becomes the arbiter of which messages are going to be taken down or not. And that's why I actually applaud what the advertisers are doing. I think in a democratic capitalist society, I think the market should be the ones leading the way. And you're only going to force action if it hits the bottom line. And again, it's not just about advertisers no longer advertising, but it's also consumers no longer.
Professor Egan, as we wrap up, we had a guest on last week talking about this issue, pointed out that, for instance, Instagram's about 20% of the revenue picture, whereas Facebook might be larger, but Facebook is also older people. It's us. So doesn't Zuckerberg risk alienating that younger consumer who's now on the Instagram platform? Because that's where their growth is going to be, right?
That is where their growth is going to be. Does he have the possibility to alienate them? Absolutely. But I also think, and this could be changing as the 2020 election dynamics change, but historically more of those messages have been placed on Facebook and they've avoided Instagram a little bit.
All right. Beth Egan is Syracuse University Associate Professor of Advertising, where the veil of Onondaga meets the eastern sky. My alumni.
Impressive.
All the best to you, Beth, and say hi to Donna Storm for me.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.